Our new main character transmigrates into a novel, and his timing is just perfect. He arrives at the exact moment the original owner of his body, a live-in son-in-law to a filthy rich family, was sneaking a divorce agreement to his wife, trying to trick her into signing it. She wasn't paying attention, and he was even planning to wait out the mandatory 30-day cooling-off period before quietly just disappearing from her life. See, the original host had been relentlessly bullied by his wife's childhood sweetheart, that perfect, pretentious golden boy. It was the absolute worst kind of bullying. He had a mouth but couldn't speak, hands but couldn't fight back, and legs he refused to use. He just spent his days with a bitter look on his face, swallowing all his anger. If you didn't know any better, you would think the guy was a total masochist. But in reality, he was just a monumental pushover. Our guy, however, is not the original. Not only does he want a divorce right here and now, he also wants half of her fortune. Her $10 billion fortune, that is. Then he's booking a first-class ticket out of the country to find his real first love, sit back, and watch everything unfold. He plans to watch his soon-to-be ex-wife get driven into bankruptcy by her precious golden boy. The plan was flawless, 10 out of 10. It would have been perfect if his wife hadn't just unlocked the ability to read her husband's mind. Why do I have to sign this right now? His wife, Khloe Sterling, asks impatiently, phone in hand. She grabs the pen, all while texting her golden boy who had just returned. He had transmigrated right at the worst possible moment. His golden boy had just come back. So the original host decided to trick her into signing a divorce agreement to get out of the way. All of this just because her childhood flame was back in town. The original host, in a moment of pure idiocy, wanted to step aside and make way for so-called true love. He even lied to Khloe, telling her it was just some real estate contract. And Khloe, being absurdly rich, didn't even bother to read it. She just flipped straight to the last page to sign, but our new guy wasn't having any of that. He believes in a very simple philosophy. Be open, be reasonable, get revenge when you are wronged, and always repay your debts. He's a man of clear boundaries. All right, fine, maybe he's not that noble. It was mostly because the original agreement said he would leave completely empty-handed with his reputation in tatters. The original host slaved away serving Khloe for 3 years, 3 long years. He didn't even get to hold her hand in all that time, and now he's meant to leave with nothing. He was playing the pure, untainted love card, but basically, he was just a doormat. A pathetic doormat, leaving without a cent and probably paying for his own cab ride. Everyone gets one youth, and our MC refused to let his be wasted like that. It wasn't like he didn't want to get close to Khloe. She was the one playing the Ice Queen, claiming she had some phobia that kept men from getting too close to her. And with a woman like that, the original host still wanted to walk away with nothing. Not even a single toaster from the massive Sterling estate. Pathetic. Then what in the world was he going to do for that 30-day cooling-off period? Was he seriously hoping she would magically change her mind before he finally woke up from his delusions? What a massive hypocrite. Khloe's attention, meanwhile, was glued to her phone. She flipped to the last page of the document, completely unaware. She clicked her pen, ready to sign her life away. He stepped forward and snatched the document. Rip, without a word, he tore that leave with nothing divorce agreement into pieces. Shreds, seeing his complete 180 personality shift, Khloe frowned in confusion. Annoyance, Kevin Vance, what stunt are you pulling now? But he didn't hide it, looking her dead in the eye. This is a divorce agreement. I made a typo, he explained. Give me a minute, I'll print a new one, but his thoughts told a completely different story. A woman like Khloe didn't deserve his charity. He wasn't walking away with anything less than $1 billion in alimony. No way he'd give up his spot for her little golden boy. Khloe froze, absolutely dumbfounded. The words divorce agreement were shocking enough, but then she whipped her head around to look at him. His lips hadn't moved an inch. And yet she clearly heard those other sentences echoing inside her head. What was that? Khlo genuinely believed she was having auditory hallucinations. So she decided to test the waters. Kevin, why do you want to divorce me? Since he already brought it up, Kevin decided to play the generous husband. Your precious Christian is coming back from abroad, isn't he? I'm giving you two the chance to be together, openly and legally. We wouldn't want rumors of CEO Sterling's affair all over the tabloids, now would we? But inside his head, the truth was brutal. He wanted to slap her so hard she'd forget her own name. No way was he letting her off easy. $1 billion. Too little, maybe 10 billion, and that's when Khlo finally understood. Those weren't hallucinations. She was hearing his inner thoughts. 10 billion. The sheer audacity. I have never considered divorcing you, Khlo snapped coldly. Christian Thorne and I are just friends. Stop letting your imagination run wild. Don't bring up divorce again. He was too lazy to argue with her nonsense. So instead, smack, a clean, resounding slap right across her face. Oh look, domestic violence. Are we divorcing now or what? He asked calmly. But his next thought was chilling. If they didn't divorce, the Sterling family would go bankrupt anyway. And he wouldn't get a single dime. He had to divorce her. Today, besides, that money wasn't for him. He was going to need the funds to buy very nice coffins for her entire family. After taking that slap, Khlo just stood there, a statue. He, the man who worshipped the ground she walked on for 3 years, had actually hit her. Fury boiled in her veins. She wanted to call her bodyguards and have both his legs broken. But then she heard his inner voice again. Her rage vanished, replaced by pure, unadulterated terror. Wait, the Sterling family, going bankrupt, and he's going to collect their corpses. Absolutely not. Khlo was the CEO of the Sterling Group. The Sterling family wasn't just her home. It was her power, her lifeblood, and her lifelong goal. She could die, but the Sterling Group could not fall. For the family, she had already sacrificed her love and her marriage once before. And so, Khlo vehemently refused to sign the divorce papers. He had no idea what mental gymnastics she was doing, and he didn't care. Isn't divorcing him to be with Christian exactly what she wanted? She tore up the new agreement he handed her, then locked herself in the master bedroom and yelled through the door, "You can beat me to death. I still won't divorce you." Kevin was speechless. The door was locked. How was he supposed to do that exactly? Fine, it was clear this house was never truly his home to begin with. But his real home was back in his rural hometown. It was time to pack and leave. If he stayed, her precious golden boy would probably try to move into his closet. It wasn't about running away. He just felt physically sick at the thought of her. Seeing that two-faced manipulator again, hitting her would just get his hands dirty. He returned to his room and packed all night long, 2 enormous suitcases. Inside was the empire he'd built over the last 3 years. This also meant all the luxury watches Khlo bought him just to keep up appearances. The original guy might have been too naive to take anything, but he wasn't. Why would he ever turn his back on cold, hard cash, unlike the previous host who left like a thief in the night? The second he got in his car, he posted an update straight to Facebook and Instagram. The picture was a huge photo of the torn divorce agreement. The caption read, "I, Kevin Vance, have initiated divorce. Proceedings with Miss Khlo Sterling, leaving with my integrity intact. As for whether the Sterling Group's stock plummets, that's not my problem anymore." He was just Kevin Vance, the useless live-in husband. He hit post, turned off. His phone slammed the gas and left Khlo's mansion in the dust. He left the city and drove back to his countryside home. Both of his parents had passed away, and he had no siblings, which was precisely why the Sterlings picked him to marry their daughter. His small 2-story house was looked after by a neighbor, so it was actually clean and ready to be lived in. Lying in his own bed, he finally got a peaceful night's sleep. No more waking at dawn to make Khlo her breakfast. No reading her moods, carrying her bags, or grabbing her shoes. Just the thought of his old life made him want to cry. He wondered how the original guy survived. Such a pathetic existence. Khloe, meanwhile, woke up early. Her phone had died. She was on a video call with her best friend the night before. She found her charger. But when she booted it up, her entire world came crashing down. 99 missed calls. Mostly from her parents, her younger sister, and several friends. Her family was currently on a world tour. Did something happen? Then she suddenly remembered. She recalled Kevin's thoughts about the family going bankrupt. Panicking, she called her father, Mr. Arthur Sterling. The moment the call connected, his father's furious yell blasted right through the speaker. "You ungrateful brat, call Kevin immediately and tell him to delete that post." In the background, her mother, Martha, chimed in, crying, "Delete what? Let the whole world see what kind of person our Khloe really is. I want to disown her." Khloe was utterly confused. She knew her mother adored Kevin, but enough to disown her own daughter. What kind of crazy lies had Kevin been telling them? She quickly hung up and opened Kevin's social media. One glance and her mind went completely blank. Her phone slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. The words "leaving with my integrity intact" felt like 4 giant slaps to the face. Her cheeks burned. There are some things you just do behind closed doors. But for her husband to broadcast it to the world, what would everyone think? That her husband couldn't perform, that she was frigid, that she didn't respect him. Or that she was a tyrant, abusing her live-in husband for her childhood crush. For the first time in 3 years of marriage, Khloe kicked down the door to his room. It was completely empty. No person, no belongings. She rushed out. Khloe watched the security feed, her heart sinking as Kevin dragged his suitcases away. He showed zero hesitation. Khloe slumped to the floor, her world completely shattering. Her heart was in absolute chaos. Yesterday, she was so sure she didn't love him. But today, an incredible emptiness. Khloe tracked him down faster than he anticipated. He'd just woken up and was about to head out for breakfast when he saw her. Khloe was standing right outside his door. Yesterday, she looked flawless and untouchable. But today, her hair was a mess, and she was still wearing her pajamas. It looked like she hadn't even washed her face. She looked utterly broken. Completely shattered, he couldn't help but think, what a mess. Did Golden Boy dump her? He almost felt bad for her. Turns out the untouchable Khloe wasn't so different. Khloe rolled her eyes so hard it was a miracle. "Hubby, can I come in?" This time he was the one who froze. It felt like a lightning strike on a clear day. In 3 years, she had never called him hubby. Why was this woman suddenly acting sweet? He fought the urge to slap her again. She was definitely up to no good. He knew he had to stay on guard. Still, he eventually let her inside. Mostly because the local gossips were already starting to gather. "Speak," he demanded. "Besides signing the divorce papers, we have nothing to talk about, if you refuse." He threatened to get physical if she didn't sign, or better yet, "I'll just go cheat on you, or if the money's an issue, just give me whatever you want." The moment the words left his mouth, instant regret. Damn it all. Why did he say whatever you want? What if she actually gave him nothing? He couldn't really call the cops with fake claims, or actually go out and cheat. He couldn't even stomach hiring escorts like those other sleazy divorce guys do. Cursing his strong moral compass, he realized he couldn't even be a proper scumbag. Khloe lowered her head, silent for a moment, before looking up with total sincerity. "Hubby, I never wanted a divorce," he sneered back. "Of course you don't. You want your perfect husband at home while you're out having fun with other men." Khloe looked completely exasperated. "I will not cheat on you," she insisted. "Yeah, right," he scoffed. "You'll just do it emotionally instead." The master manipulator raised 3 fingers to the sky. "I swear on my life, I will not cheat physically or emotionally." And then it clicked. He saw her game. This woman wanted to calm him down first, wait a few months, maybe a year, and then divorce him while playing the victim, a truly scheming mastermind. Khloe opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her heart turned to ice. Because an hour ago, that was her exact plan, but now her feelings were shifting. Christian Thorne suddenly felt like a distant, unrealistic illusion, a fantasy. Someone to admire from afar but never actually get close to. Meanwhile, Kevin, the man by her side for 3 years, felt intensely real, so she played another card. The family card. Mom fainted when she saw your post. She hasn't woken up. Dad's heart condition is flaring up. You know they treat you like their own son. And he knew it was true. The Sterling parents were rarely in the city these days. They spent their time traveling the world, but they were always calling and texting him. Mrs. Sterling especially, who constantly checked in on him like a real mother. She'd even gotten Khloe drunk once and threw her into his bed, but unfortunately, the original Kevin was a pure-hearted guy who despised such underhanded tactics. Leaving his mother-in-law absolutely furious and disappointed, you could tell she wanted to drug them both. Thanks to her parents, the whole divorce process just hit a pause. As an orphan, he genuinely craved the warmth they showed him, so he deleted the post. But flat-out refused Khloe's demand for a follow-up explanation. As he walked Khloe out, his mind started to wander. Man, if he knew divorce was this much of a hassle, he would have forced her sign last night and just hopped on a plane. If he went abroad a month early, he might even bump into his own first love. But no, it was fine. He didn't have Bianca's contact info anyway. He'd need to renew his passport first, then fly out to find her, according to the novel's original plot. After divorcing, the hero would go abroad and miraculously enroll in the same university as his senior, Bianca Frost. Bianca was basically Khloe's equal in wealth, beauty, and figure. Most importantly, they were mortal enemies. Wait, Khloe panicked. She didn't know why, but hearing him talk about some senior and his first love made her blood boil. He wanted to go abroad to find her, to rekindle an old flame. A wave of pure anger, sorrow, and despair washed over her. The thought of Kevin at the altar with another woman made her physically sick. And his senior was Bianca Frost. They graduated from the same university. Great, just great. They weren't even divorced yet, and he was already planning to get with her absolute worst enemy. Khloe was so angry her lungs could have just exploded. Despair and fury set her blood on fire. Kevin could literally feel the heat radiating from her nostrils, like a dragon about to burn the entire world. Kevin Vance. Khloe ground his name out through gritted teeth. He took a terrified step back. What was wrong with this woman? Why was she suddenly going berserk? Had she changed her mind? If she insisted he leave with nothing, fine. Let her get killed by enemies later. He wouldn't even bother collecting her corpse. And just like that, Khloe's raging inferno was extinguished. She wasn't stupid. She had realized he could see the future. Thinking about her family going bankrupt and all of them dying horrible deaths. She lost all interest in grilling him about Bianca. Only one thought remained now. If she wanted to save her family, her only hope was Kevin's inner monologues. Therefore, getting a divorce was strictly off the table. With her mind made up, Khloe's ruthless business instincts kicked in. She evaluated the cards in her hand. Kevin cared about money, but he was also willing to leave with nothing, so money wasn't his main weakness. Family and affection were. As an orphan, he desperately craved a real home. But just now, he was plotting to run away for love, and their marriage, their romance. Khloe covered her face, feeling a deep wave of shame. For the past 3 years, she hadn't been a proper wife at all. The only card she had left was her purity, which Kevin seemed to care about the most. Khloe, what are you spacing out for? Are you leaving or not? He asked. Khloe snapped back to reality. No, we aren't divorced yet. Your house is my house. I'm staying right here. Her plan was to stick to him 24/7 to stop him from sneaking out of the country. And somehow he couldn't manage to kick this thick-skinned woman out of his house. For the next few days, Khloe became a completely different person. During the day, she would work model she watched him from across the living room, and at night, tried to sneak into his bed. Her clinginess was off the charts, leaving him both confused and utterly terrified. What kind of twisted scheme was she plotting? She even kept asking about Bianca Frost. He was keeping his mouth shut. But then she started discussing company matters with him, which only deepened his suspicion. When he first married her, they made a strict 3-rule agreement. Rule 1 was no talking about love. Rule 2, no company business, and absolutely no talk about having children. So what was her endgame here? Today, he finally reached his breaking point with all this sudden affection. They were on the sofa watching a movie when she insisted on cleaning his ears for him. He recoiled. Wasn't she supposed to be a germaphobe? He wondered if she was seducing him to harvest his kidneys for her precious golden boy. He screamed inside. His organs were the only valuable assets he had left. He decided to pack his bags and run that night. Khloe just sighed. She had been trying so incredibly hard to be the perfect wife for the last few days. She did the laundry, cooked, made conversation, and even offered to warm his bed. But her efforts were like throwing stones into a bottomless pit. It was time for her ultimate weapon, calling his mother. "Hubby, I am your wife. I will only be good to you for the rest of my life, I swear." In just a few days, Khloe had completely reordered her priorities. Romance would have to wait. Preventing the Sterling family's total annihilation was now the main quest. Without love, she might be miserable, but at least she wouldn't die. Without the Sterling group, however, her entire family was doomed to a gruesome end. With her mind sharp, Khloe activated her ultimate skill. Hubby, Mom, Dad, and Sasha just flew back. Let's head to the main estate to see them. Hearing about his parents instantly softened his heart. A good person can never turn away those who genuinely care for them. Fine, he would meet them one last time, just to clear the air. He couldn't just disappear like before. Slap, slap. The second they walked in the door, Mr. and Mrs. Sterling delivered 2 perfectly synchronized slaps to Khloe's face. She cupped her cheeks. Looking incredibly pathetic, "Kneel," Mrs. Martha Sterling roared. Khloe immediately dropped to her knees. "Mom, I know I was wrong," Khloe cried out. "I am willing, truly willing to be a real husband and wife with Kevin. Really. Where are those aphrodisiacs you bought before? I can use them right now." Her attitude was as submissive as it could possibly be. Seeing her daughter wasn't faking it, Mrs. Sterling's rage cooled slightly, but she wasn't letting her off the hook. "Not that easily, it's too late for regrets, you still need a beating." Smack. "Mom, why are you still hitting me?" Khloe wailed. At that moment, Sasha Sterling, his sister-in-law who usually hated his guts, ran over and pulled her mother back. "Mom, you're going too far," but Mrs. Sterling violently shook off her hand. "Don't interfere," Mrs. Sterling ripped her hand away. "Who told your sister to enter the house with her left foot first?" Seeing Khloe looking so battered and humiliated, he couldn't stop himself from bursting out laughing. Just as he thought, only his mother-in-law could put this arrogant woman in her place. But it was a tragedy that his in-laws and Sasha were all fated to be killed by this one woman's colossal mistakes. Every single one. Sterling gasped, stumbling back in pure horror. If her husband hadn't caught her, she would have collapsed on the spot. Even Sasha, who hated her leech of a brother-in-law, jumped up screaming. "Kevin Vance, what is this garbage you're spouting?" A sharp slap, Khloe silenced her sister with a backhand. She frantically winked at her family, dragging them all into the guest room on the first floor. Before closing the door, she turned to the butler. "Barry, keep an eye on my husband. Get him a Coke." Barnaby, who'd been practically invisible, instantly materialized from the kitchen and handed Kevin a Coke. He was surprised Khloe actually remembered the original owner's favorite drink. But he wasn't feeling grateful, not at all. Just deeply, utterly confused. Why was the whole family acting so strange? It made zero sense. He sat there in the living room for a full half-hour. No movement from the bedroom, other than the odd sound of a slap and some muffled screams from Khloe and Sasha. Finally, Mr. and Mrs. Sterling walked out, looking like the world was on their shoulders. The 2 sisters trailed them, heads bowed low. To his complete shock, Mrs. Sterling burst into tears, throwing her arms around him. He panicked, having no idea how to comfort her. His mind raced with fake reassurances. Mom, don't cry. Khloe and I aren't divorcing. We'll live a good life together. His real plan was simple: play along and calm them down. Then in a few days, he'd pack his bags and disappear abroad. Once the Sterling family went bankrupt and they all died, he'd sneak back to collect their bodies. No, wait, he had to take his in-laws with him. If he left Mrs. Sterling behind, she'd only be humiliated and die a horrible death. Mr. Sterling would probably just have a heart attack, but Sasha's fate would be the worst. She used to curse him out all the time, so maybe he'd just buy her the cheapest urn on Amazon. While he was comforting Mrs. Sterling, his mind was spinning with these insane contingency plans. He didn't even notice the weird looks the whole family was giving him. Mr. Sterling looked deeply disturbed. Mrs. Sterling was clearly heartbroken. Khloe's face was a mess of intense regret and crippling anxiety. Sasha looked incredibly conflicted, clenching her fists so hard her knuckles turned white. She still couldn't believe her sister's claim that Kevin's thoughts were actual prophecies. It was completely unscientific. She was determined to find a flaw in his logic. Kevin, I fully support you divorcing Khloe. Mrs. Sterling suddenly sat up straight, her expression deadly serious. I will call the bank right now and transfer $10 billion to you. Take the money, go abroad, and never come back. Kevin shot up from the sofa in complete shock. Mom, what is this? Mr. Sterling walked over, patting his shoulder heavily. Your mother and I truly see you as our own son. If your destiny with Khloe is done, it's best to part on good terms. We'll come visit when we move abroad. You better host us well. Kevin's brain completely short-circuited. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Weren't they supposed to beg him to stay? Why agree to the divorce and offer him $10 billion? Khloe's face was streaked with tears, her eyes holding nothing but profound regret. Hubby, they're right. I wronged you. I failed as your wife. I agree to the divorce. Then Sasha, hot-headed as always, chimed in. Kevin, Vance, sign the papers, take the money. He tells them to just get lost, even offering his $23.5 million allowance. And to take his parents abroad with them. They act more like a real family anyway. Just go immigrate. This entire family, he thought, is completely out of its mind. But wait, Sasha's idiotic idea was actually a good one. He doesn't need her money, though. He won't be buying a cheap urn. No, he'll pre-order a nice one for her tomorrow. She's going to need it in about 2 months anyway. He's furious. Sasha stomps her foot. That's her savings from the last 20 years, she screams. You absolute bastard. Though she couldn't quite bring herself to say that last part out loud, suddenly her phone rings. She answers, speaks 2 sentences, and hangs up, glaring daggers at her family. I'm done with your nonsense, she spits. Do whatever you want, I don't believe you. Besides, today is Tiffany's birthday party. I absolutely have to be there. Grabbing her designer bag, she prepares to storm out, shooting him a vicious glare. He's left completely speechless and wants to convince her to stay, but it's pointless. This girl loved nothing more than rebelling against him, but he knew the terrible truth. If Sasha goes to that party, she will lose her innocence and then get photographed at a group orgy to be blackmailed for the rest of her life. It's going to be one of the final nails in the coffin for the Sterling group. How the hell is he supposed to stop her? Sasha furiously marches toward the door. But the exact moment she reaches it, the family somehow hears his internal prophecy. Sterling, Mrs. Sterling, and Khloe instantly form a solid human barricade. They block the exit completely. Mrs. Sterling even pulls out the family heirloom. A solid black leather whip. What is going on? Sasha shrieks in terror. Stop hitting me, I'm just going to a friend's house, but her family wasn't having it. They didn't care. If a beating could stop their bankruptcy, they were more than willing. They were ready to beat her senseless, but then Sasha hears the fate that awaited her. It comes from his inner voice. Her legs give out as she nearly collapses to the floor. Watching the family tackle Sasha to the ground, the husband's heart skips a beat. They had always treated him so well. Maybe, maybe he should stay and help them. The core issue, however, was Khloe. That brain-dead woman was causing the group's downfall. Khloe, on the other hand, was experiencing a whole new level of despair. She hadn't even done anything, but the company was apparently going down in flames. And it was all her fault, but then a realization hits her like a lightning bolt. Listening to her husband could actually alter their destiny. A fire ignites in her eyes. She may be a fool for love in the original plot, but across the multiverse, every version of Khloe Sterling shares one key trait: she is a gorgeous, cold-hearted, and fiercely competent CEO. She pulls out her phone, calling her executive assistant. Kyle, take a security team to VIP room 1 at the Midnight Club in exactly 30 minutes. Take photos, record videos, and secure all of the evidence. Once you have it, drag Tiffany to the main estate. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling exchange a look. They hold hands and smile. Sasha, however, looks conflicted. Could Tiffany cause a disaster? Maybe what he thinks isn't true. At that, Khloe shoots her sister a lethal glare. Then she turns back to her husband, her mind abruptly made up about something else. She was going to fight for this marriage. She would give it one last final chance. Hubby, can we hold off on the divorce for 1 month? I promise, I promise. I will keep my word. I'll transfer $10 billion to your account right this second. Before he could answer, the parents stepped forward, though they'd previously agreed. They had accepted the divorce for his sake, but now saw a chance to change their own gruesome fate. Mrs. Sterling grabbed his hands. Even Sasha walked over, tugging on his shirt, acting cute for the first time in history. Brother-in-law, I'll be super nice to you from now on, I promise. He stayed silent. This family was getting stranger by the second, especially Sasha. Didn't she realize just how weird she sounded? But whatever, for the sake of $10 billion in cold hard cash, he decided to stay. A man has to see things through. Sneaking off in the night just wasn't his style anyway. Khloe could die, but the Sterling group had to survive. If she bankrupted it, he could just hand the reins over to Sasha. Fine, Khloe, I'll stay, but you have to promise me one thing, he said. As long as we are married, you are not allowed to do anything immoral. Khloe nodded frantically, even though her heart was bleeding. So, I really am destined to die, huh? I don't want to die, he sighed internally. Tomorrow, Christian Thorne returns to the country. Khloe's love-crazed brain would activate. She wouldn't just meet him at the airport with flowers and hugs, but she would bring him back to their house. She would even ask him to cook and clean the guest room for her little boy toy. That manipulative, two-faced loser was going to try moving into the master bedroom right in front of his face. Just thinking about it made him sick. Maybe he should just break her legs right now. Yeah, that sounded like a perfectly solid plan. Mr. Sterling suddenly coughed so loudly he startled everyone. He pointed a trembling finger at Khloe. You, come into the study. We need to discuss company business. Mrs. Sterling quietly gripped her leather whip, smiling at him with terrifying warmth. Good son-in-law, we have some corporate matters to discuss. Have another Coke while you wait. Khloe's face drained of all color. No, please, this isn't real. I didn't even agree to do any of that yet. Before she could finish her sentence, her legs turned to jelly and she collapsed right onto the floor. Sasha cracked her knuckles, radiating the aura of a pouncing tiger. I have some things I need to discuss with my dear sister, too, she sneered. He watched the entire family drag Khloe back into the bedroom. Soon enough, blood-curdling screams echoed through the halls. Something was seriously wrong here. This was way too abnormal. He turned to the butler. Barnaby, don't you think they're acting a little out of character today? Barnaby, who had worked for the family his entire life, offered a kind smile. Young master, I actually quite agree with their methods for disobedient children. A synchronized family beatdown is the ultimate solution. A disobedient wife shouldn't be playing the innocent victim anyway. Besides, it's been ages since I've seen the master and madam looking so spry and full of energy. He was completely speechless. Half an hour later, Khloe was carried out, breathing weakly. Her face didn't have any bruises, but she had been changed into a completely different outfit. At the same time, her assistant, Kyle, marched in with a security detail. They were dragging a disheveled woman with a black sock stuffed in her mouth. He recognized her from a few past encounters, Sasha's best friend, Tiffany. Kyle glanced at Khloe in total surprise. Why does the CEO look so? Her face looked swollen, but he didn't dare ask, simply bending down to whisper the report into her ear. And Khloe, who looked near death moments before, suddenly morphed into a starving tiger locking onto its prey. Her icy gaze swept over Tiffany. You really thought I knew nothing? Nod or shake. Tiffany shook her head frantically. Khloe just nodded coldly. Take her and all the evidence to the police station. You dare plot against my sister, and just like that, Tiffany was dragged away. Before Kyle left, Khloe pulled him aside, whispering some instructions. Kevin couldn't hear what she said, but Kyle shot him a very specific, knowing look before he left. Mr. Sterling then told Barnaby to prepare dinner. Kevin, just stay home tonight, have a few drinks with your old man. What do you say? Seeing the expectant eyes of the entire family, he decided to just play along. Those final moments of false happiness are always the hardest to let go. He sighed to himself. Khloe, if you weren't so dead set on ruining your own life, things could have been perfect. The moment Khloe sat down at the dinner table, she went completely limp, sliding from her chair onto the floor. Hubby, I really don't want to be beaten anymore. One more family beat down, and I'm just going to end it all. What 25-year-old woman gets whipped daily? Kevin glared at her. What does you getting beaten have to do with me? I didn't do a thing, and I definitely didn't say a word. That's not true, Khloe whimpered. Throughout dinner, Mr. Sterling kept pouring him drinks. Mrs. Sterling kept serving him the finest cuts of meat. Sasha even leaned over to gently dab his mouth. Khloe couldn't even manage to get into the conversation, curled up in her chair like a frightened little quail. He stole a glance at her. Is she crazy? Why is her face so red? She looks like a blushing maiden. Fantasizing about her golden boy again. Khloe shot up from her chair like a rocket, waving her hands in a panic. No, I'm not, I swear. Don't let your imagination get carried away. Mrs. Sterling just nodded stoically. Mr. Sterling raised his glass. Drink up, son. Sasha then personally fed him a sip of wine. Here, brother-in-law, let me feed you. But Mrs. Sterling slapped her hand away and shot a glare at her husband. Stop making him drink. How is he supposed to work tonight if he's completely wasted? She scooped a huge cucumber into his bowl. Eat up, Kevin. The main estate gets cold at night. You need your stamina. Maybe it was all the nutrient-packed food. Because when he returned to his room, he felt unusually hot and restless. In the dead of night, a woman slipped right under his covers. From her perfume and the feel of her skin, he knew it was Khloe, but he didn't push her away. He wasn't the original host. He wasn't some warrior of pure love. If prime Wagyu beef delivers itself to his mouth, why wouldn't he take a bite? Besides, she was still legally his wife. And she was completely untouched, a delicate, blooming rose. The 3 years of pent-up frustration erupted into a night of pure passion. The next afternoon, the Sterling family hosted some guests, their old family friends. The Thornes, another powerful dynasty in the city. It was Christian Thorne and his father. Kevin had absolutely zero desire to see them, so he hid in the gaming room Mrs. Sterling had custom-built for him. He didn't come out until dinner. What he didn't expect was that Khloe hadn't immediately run downstairs to see her old flame. With her precious golden boy, instead his eyes followed her slow, shaky descent. She came down the stairs, clinging to the handrail for dear life. Wearing the most conservative outfit imaginable that showed only her hands and face. He had no idea what kind of game she was playing. Beside him, Mr. D. Sterling whispered in distress. How much of that drug did you put in his food? He went nonstop all night. Mrs. Sterling just rolled her eyes. I did not drug him. I grabbed the wrong bottle. Mr. Sterling gasped. Then their minds are finally opened. Mrs. Sterling smiled, then let out a long sigh. It is just a little too late. Near the stairs, Christian Thorne rushed forward the very moment he laid eyes on Khloe. Khloe, I called you. Why did you not pick up? Are you sick? You look like you just woke up. Khloe just offered a polite, distant smile and smoothly dodged his attempt to help her down. I am a bit under the weather, slept all day. She greeted his father, then walked straight over to Arthur and sat down by his side. At the dinner table, Mr. Sterling played the gracious host. Old Thorne, let us have a few drinks tonight. It has been a while. Richard Thorne laughed heartily. It is rare to see you, a man so strictly managed by his wife, actually take the lead. Sure, let's drink, but Arthur refused. Christian Thorne also chose not to drink. After a few rounds of wine, Christian pulled out a velvet box. Inside rested a dazzling diamond necklace that shimmered with a brilliant blue light. Khloe. I did not know what to get you upon my return, Christian said with a smooth voice, until I saw this at auction. It is Ocean's Deep Love by Master Pavani. It represents our friendship, as deep as the ocean. He'd heard women, much like Western dragons, love shiny diamonds. Arthur did some quick mental math. That necklace was worth at least 2 or 3 billion. Christian was clearly playing for keeps. Staying pure abroad all these years just for her. This was not a gift, it was a dowry. The gesture should have moved her to tears. Khloe was touched, but only for a moment. The previous night's intense session with Arthur had left a much stronger impression. Right now, the mere thought of another man was simply exhausting to her. She had been more than satisfied. Still, hearing Christian pledge his devotion certainly stroked her ego. But there was absolutely no way she was accepting that thing. Taking it would mean another family beatdown. Fearing her daughter was about to risk death again, Mrs. Sterling quickly stepped in. Christian, this is far too expensive. Khloe can't accept this, Mr. Sterling then chimed in. Yes, the friendship between you two should not involve such massive financial stakes. If you want to play big, your father and I can exchange multi-billion-dollar gifts. To everyone's surprise, Richard Thorne nodded, pulling out a business dossier. Arthur, this is a port project in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Arthur knew what this was. He was afraid Arthur would get suspicious, but he could not reject it for his father-in-law. He was just the live-in son-in-law with 0 shares in the company and absolutely no right to speak on these matters. The Thorne family, he thought, really is following the original plot. Too bad for them, Christian's necklace is a complete sham. The man never actually wanted to give it to Khloe. And Khloe, who had been feeling smug about Christian's devotion a second ago, instantly stopped breathing. Her focus shifted entirely to Arthur's thoughts, so did everyone else's. Sterling and a silent Sasha just froze on the spot. They both knew who he really wanted to give that necklace to, their own mother. Just imagine if Khloe found out her perfect golden boy's true love was actually her mother. She would probably die from pure rage. Khloe's eyes snapped bloodshot as she clenched her fists. Her knuckles cracked under the pressure. Mrs. Sterling slammed her chopsticks on the table, looking completely sick as she covered her mouth. And Mr. Sterling squeezed his wine glass so tight it shattered in his hand. But Kevin, he just kept eating. Totally unfazed, Sasha, on the other hand, was way too eager, constantly refilling his bowl. It was like they were all blind. Kevin saw Christian look at Khloe 10 times, but he'd secretly checked out Mrs. Sterling a full 20 times. The guy lost his own mother young, a massive mommy complex, and Khloe was just completely oblivious. She really deserved to get played. Mrs. Sterling couldn't take it anymore. Without a single word, she shot up and fled straight to her bedroom, and Kevin understood. This is why he knew she needed to get out of the country. Without the Sterling family's protection, there was no way she would be able to escape Christian's sick obsession. Khloe and Sasha then stood in unison and stormed off without a word. The vibe in the dining room dropped below absolute zero. Mr. Sterling set his glass down, lowering his head to hide the murderous look in his eyes. His entire world was reeling. He'd always thought Christian was just the kid he watched grow up. It proves you can know a person's face, but not their heart. He used to think Christian clung to Mrs. Sterling because he simply lacked a mother figure. Now he knew Christian wanted much more than a mother's love. "Old Thorne, I'm feeling a bit unwell. My son-in-law will drink with you." Without a second glance, Mr. Sterling walked away. The tension was completely suffocating. Christian put the necklace away and turned to leave as well. Richard Thorne looked totally confused. He sighed, then followed his son out. The moment their backs were turned, Kevin glared. The original owner of his body suffered so much abuse because of that creep. Good riddance. About an hour later, Khloe was basically carried out of the room by her mother and sister. Covered in angry red welts, it looked like they really beat her this time, her clothes torn from the whip. Kevin couldn't help but mutter to himself. This girl had it rough, beaten by her parents outside and by him in the bedroom. But still, she deserved every bit of it. Mr. Sterling pulled him over to sit, casually asking about that Brazil project Richard Thorne had proposed. "Kevin, what do you think of this collaboration?" Kevin knew this was a test. Honestly, the project looks great on paper. High profit margins and excellent prospects. But you're all missing one critical detail. That country just elected a brand new government. The new leader is talking big about attracting foreign investment. But can you really trust the promises of a politician? It's just a stunt to win favor. Kevin continued, "Investing in that project now is like throwing money into a black hole. Just dealing with local land disputes and all the legal red tape will take years. The project won't fail, but it'll be delayed indefinitely. The Sterling Group's massive cash reserves will be frozen solid. Once that happens, the Thorne family will team up with the Lay and Chu families right here in the city, using foreign capital to squeeze your supply chains. The longer the project is stalled, the faster the Sterling Group bleeds out, but that's not even the scariest part. The truly terrifying thing is just how phenomenally stupid Khloe is about to act." Behind the scenes, Kevin took a sip of tea, choosing not to overthink it. This situation was way above his pay grade. He couldn't stop the Sterling family from going bankrupt anyway. Besides, $10 billion had just hit his bank account. A so-called voluntary gift. He was all set. Mr. Sterling, a veteran business titan, quickly saw the only viable solution. "We need outside help. Kevin, who do you think is the best family for us to partner with?" Kevin blinked. Why was he asking him? Shouldn't he ask Khloe? What does he know about corporate warfare? To himself, he knew that besides the Sterlings, the only reliable megacorporation was the Frost Group. But how could he say that? Bianca Frost was his first love. Should he really suggest his in-laws use him for a political marriage with the Frosts? Definitely not. Just then, Khloe screamed, scaring the living daylights out of everyone. Mr. Sterling rubbed his nose, looking guilty. "I didn't say anything. I would never do that." "Do what?" Kevin asked, completely lost. Mrs. Sterling glared at her husband. "He's lost his mind. Ignore him, Kevin. The Thornes were just trying to drive a wedge between us. Don't let it bother you. With Mom and Dad here, Khloe won't dare step out of line." Kevin nodded, his mind already wandering. Khloe really did seem to have changed. Maybe because they were at the main estate, she was just suppressing her real feelings for Christian. Tomorrow, Christian was going to show up at her office, and she'd make him the director of the project department. Giving him a critical role was like inviting a wolf into the house. She was handing her entire company over to him on a silver platter. It was a miracle the company hadn't collapsed already, with a love-struck idiot running it. That guy lusts after her mother, and she practically worships him with her assets. Hearing this, Khloe collapsed onto the sofa again, staring blankly at the ceiling. She was absolutely terrified. She felt that if she stayed married to Kevin, her parents would beat her to death before the company even went bankrupt. Now both sisters knew exactly what kind of degenerate Christian Thorne truly was. "How dare you even think about hiring him?" "I didn't. It hasn't happened yet." Khloe shrieked, bursting into tears. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling coughed loudly to interrupt, quickly turning to Kevin. You didn't sleep much last night. Why don't you head up and rest? So Kevin walked upstairs, feeling like this entire house was living in some kind of simulation. Whatever. He was only staying for a month. Once he leaves, it is not his problem. After he left, the family looked at each other in grim silence. They knew who the enemy was, but they had no idea what the Thorne family's exact plan was. Fighting them alone was suicide. They needed allies, and the fastest way to get one was a political marriage. But Khloe absolutely could not divorce Kevin. Sasha stepped up. Mom, Dad, I'll do it. I will agree to a political marriage. Both parents immediately shut the idea down. Khloe refused as well. Political marriages rarely ended happily, and they weren't about to throw their youngest daughter into the fire. Sasha stomped her foot in frustration. Then what? Are you seriously going to use my brother-in-law to bargain with the Frost family? Khloe clenched her fists, looking ready to punch her own sister. He is your brother-in-law. We were intimate last night, which means he's mine. But Mrs. Sterling had zero time for their drama. Actually, Khloe, there's a massive piece of this puzzle you still don't know, she sighed. Kevin, since it has come to this, there's no reason to hide it anymore. Your husband has another identity. He is, what you'd call, this family's ultimate trump card. It turns out, 3 years ago when the Sterlings made Khloe marry him, they didn't just see his background and good looks. They saw his true power. That legendary hacker you have been desperately trying to hire. BD, Mr. Sterling asked. BD is Kevin. What? Khloe's shock was earth-shattering. On par with learning, she could hear his thoughts. Then why didn't he tell me? And then it all clicked. No wonder. No wonder he acted like he could just casually run into Bianca, Frost the second he went abroad. There are no coincidences in the world of business. Everything was calculated. Both the Frost and Sterling groups were huge players in internet technology. BD wasn't some random hacker. His projects were massive, national-level security systems. The name BD was basically a walking gold mine of connections. And connections meant business, the lifeblood of any major company. Mr. Sterling couldn't resist jumping in. There is one thing I absolutely can't stand about Kevin's methods, though. A truly capable man shows his woman his strength. Women are always drawn to power, but he insisted on playing this pure, devoted, and pathetic role. If he had just shown his real power, he would have had you wrapped around his finger 3 years ago. Mrs. Sterling and Sasha both nodded hard. Khloe found herself nodding too. She actually agreed with her father. She was Khloe Sterling, and a Khloe Sterling would never fall for a weak man. Much later, Khloe returned to their bedroom, curling right into his chest. She asked softly, Hubby, did you hide that on purpose? And he didn't deny it. Yeah, hiding it from you was my mistake. I wanted to try the pure love route. Pathetic, right, not pathetic, Khloe whispered back. Her hands gently cupped his face as she sighed. It's my fault. He wasted so much time acting cold instead of just talking to him. He quickly cut her off. Let's skip the deep emotional talks from now on. Physical communication is so much better, don't you think? But in his head, he couldn't trust a single word. This woman's true love was still Christian. If he tried to connect with her on that level, he'd just get played again. He decided to conquer her physically first. Playing that pure love game was so stupid. Since she took his first time, he figured he'd buy her a slightly nicer urn when it was time to collect her ashes. Khloe just smiled bitterly against his chest. She honestly didn't know if she should laugh or cry. The next morning, Khloe insisted they go to the office together. For 3 years, even while married, she was the untouchable. High and mighty CEO of Sterling Group, while he was just a low-level tech guy. Not even a manager. We're about to get a divorce. Why go in together now? I refuse, he said. Hubby, Khloe whined. Our morning workout session went a little too long today. You completely drained me. Are you really not going to take responsibility? You're not that kind of guy, are you? And so, the moment they walked into the corporate lobby, Khloe linked her arm through his, leaning against him like a delicate little bird. From the front desk all the way to the executive suite, it only took 5 minutes for the news to spread. The CEO and this guy had been married for 3 years. 20 minutes later, Christian Thorne gets the news and sprints right over from his own company. He storms into Khloe's office, demanding answers. "Khloe, didn't you say you were divorcing Kevin the moment I got back? Why are you two going public now? What was the point of me waiting 3 agonizing years for you?" "Hello," he's standing right there. "Is our guy invisible?" He just sneers back. "What was the point? The point is, you're a toad dreaming of swan meat. Haven't you heard the saying, a toad will never taste the swan?" And Khloe actually bursts out laughing. She genuinely cannot hold it in. Christian looks like he's about to pop a blood vessel. "Khloe, are you actually in love with him? He's just a country bumpkin." "He's nothing." Khloe confidently walks over and wraps her arms around his waist. "I love my husband. I only love my husband. Before, I didn't understand what love was, and I was foolish enough to fall for your sweet talk." But then her tone shifts to a freezing glare. "Christian Thorne, my mother's underwear that went missing a few years ago. You stole it, didn't you?" Christian's face goes deathly pale. His eyes dart around the room in absolute panic as he subconsciously takes a step back. "Khloe, that is not a funny joke." Khloe gives him a subtle wink, and just like that, he understands the assignment. He steps forward and delivers a devastating right hook right to Christian's jaw. Followed by a swift kick to the gut. "You absolute degenerate freak," he roars. "You lusted after my esteemed mother-in-law. You wanted a mother-daughter combo meal." Guilty and terrified, Christian doesn't even dare to fight back. Our guy beats him to a pulp before finally having security toss him out. He was slightly bewildered, though. How did Khloe know about the underwear thing? No wonder she's been so nice to him lately. She finally saw her golden boy's true colors. Too bad it's a little late. He doesn't like her the way the original host did, but he definitely likes her body. She's his woman now, and he can't just stand by and watch her family get destroyed, right? Fine, he'll save her just this once. Hearing this, Khloe feels a mix of immense relief and profound sadness. "Hubby," she pleads softly, "can we please not divorce? If we do, my mom will never let me marry anyone else. She'll just think they're only marrying me to get close to her." She pauses, looking utterly defeated. "How about this? You can have a girlfriend on the outside, but you just can't let me find out." Our hero is completely dumbstruck. He has no idea how to respond. A woman as arrogant and proud as Khloe Sterling was actually offering him a hall pass. He's certain she's trying to trick him. If she had treated the original host like this 3 years ago, the man would have gladly died for her. Over the next few weeks, the city's business sector gets thrown into absolute chaos. Ever since Christian and Khloe had their very public falling out, the two corporations went to war. According to the original plot, Christian was meant to infiltrate the Sterling Group as a project director and leak massive amounts of classified data and trap the company's funds in some bogus Brazil project. Then the Thornes would ally with other mega corporations to squeeze the Sterlings into bankruptcy, forcing them to sell their shares for practically nothing. But thanks to his inner monologues, Mr. Sterling and Khloe launched a preemptive strike. They went after Thorne Group products and straight up hijacked their deals. And knowing their exact strategies, they systematically backed the Thorne family into a corner. Of course, Kevin wasn't just sitting idle. The legendary BD hadn't lost his touch. In fact, he'd only gotten more mysterious, with Khloe ignoring him for 3 years. The original host had plenty of free time to code and build networks. Using his hacker alias, our boy landed several massive government contracts for the Sterling Group. This gave Khloe the breathing room she so desperately needed, but it wasn't enough. The Sterling Group needed tens of billions in cash to survive this war. The banks were playing hard to get, and the company was hanging by a thread against the combined power of the rival families. Just as he was preparing to find other potential allies, a totally unexpected visitor showed up at their door. Senior, what are you doing here? Kevin asked, completely shocked. Standing right in front of him was his first love, Bianca Frost, and then Khloe stepped out from behind her, beaming. Hubby, I told you I had a surprise. Are you happy? He forced a smile, but inside he was terrified. His relationship with Khloe had been moving forward, slowly but surely. They were even sleeping in the same bed every night, but bringing his first love home. His brain short-circuited. What the hell was Khloe's game? Was she testing him? Trying to catch him cheating to get her 10 billion back. Khloe kept a perfect hostess smile, carefully watching Bianca's every move. Seeing that Bianca remained cool and completely professional, Khloe's smile grew even wider. Just as she expected, only the Sterling family could hear his thoughts. Kevin, it's been a long time, Bianca said smoothly. I'm here at CEO Sterling's invitation to discuss a merger. Figured I'd drop by and see how you were. Khloe nodded, all enthusiasm. Bianca is doing us a huge favor, hubby. Why don't you head to the kitchen and whip up something amazing for us for lunch? He knew the two women needed to talk business, so being banished to the kitchen suited him fine. By the time he brought the food out, they had already finalized the details. It was a happy moment for everyone involved. After they saw Bianca off, he finally asked, "How did you convince her to partner with us?" Khloe just smiled mysteriously. I cast a long line to catch a big fish. The willing victim took the bait. Kevin just scratched his head, completely lost in her riddles. If she didn't want to tell him, fine. Khloe was treating him better daily. But he still fully intended to keep conquering her in the bedroom. With Khloe's mind and the Frost Group's massive cash injection, it only took 1 month for the Sterling Group to make a full recovery and crush the rival alliance. The Thorne Group was on the very edge of total collapse. On their day of defeat, Christian Thorne showed up at the Sterling estate in a cheap-looking suit, looking utterly pathetic. Well, the suit was fine. He had just lost a terrifying amount of weight. The moment he walked in the door, he fell to his knees. Uncle Arthur, Khloe, please let the Thorne family go. From now on, we will be your loyal dogs. Dogs. They'd do anything he commanded. Mr. Sterling and Khloe were not about to show any mercy. Mrs. Sterling hated the boy, swearing to donate her entire fortune just to spite his family. The thought of this kid she had watched grow up, dating her daughter just to get close and steal her personal items, made her feel physically sick. But it was Mr. Sterling who felt the most intense hatred, knowing the Thornes had plotted to ruin his wife and both of his daughters, aiming to end his entire family line. There was no way he'd let them get away. Christian, Mr. Sterling said coldly, if you hand over your family's offshore trust funds right now, I might consider letting your father off. Richard Thorne was already clinging to life in the ICU. Letting him off the hook was just a way to let him die with some dignity and get a proper burial, while making the Sterling family look merciful to the public. But Christian understood the real threat loud and clear. If he handed over the money, his father gets a funeral. If he doesn't, his father's body would be fed to the dogs. That offshore trust was Christian's one and only lifeline. He could try to run from the country, but against the combined power of the Sterlings and the Frosts, he would not survive a single week. Uncle, please, I don't want to go to prison, Christian sobbed. Mr. Sterling just sneered. After Christian had crawled out, Khloe and Sasha immediately questioned him. Dad, why are you letting him go? Is it just for the trust fund? Mr. Sterling casually took a sip of tea. I only said I wouldn't send him to prison, and that I wouldn't lay a hand on him. He looked up at his son-in-law. But that doesn't mean my son-in-law will let him off. The meaning was perfectly clear. His father-in-law was giving him the honor of carrying out the final revenge. White-collar crimes would only earn a few years in some cushy, minimum security prison. Christian came back to the country with the sole purpose of stealing his wife. A man who tries to take another's wife and desires his respected mother-in-law. If he just swallowed that insult, he'd never be able to live with himself. He wasn't the weak, original host of this body. Khloe did a great job today, he thought. He'd have to reward her tonight with a mid-tier performance. Hearing this, Khloe felt a wave of pure joy and relief. Finally, no more family punishment sessions. Her mom's little leather whip was agonizing, but her hubby's punishments were bliss. Right on cue, Mrs. Sterling walked out, pinching her nose. Barnaby, have the maids air out this living room now. The whole place smells like garbage. Barnaby appeared out of nowhere. Right away, madam. Suddenly, the son-in-law remembered a loose thread. Wait, doesn't Khloe have some devoted junior from college working at her company? In the original story, after she went bankrupt, that guy stayed right by her side. He even died for her in the end. He wondered if Khloe suddenly screamed at the top of her lungs, shattering his train of thought. She launched herself at him, kissing him with a ferocious intensity that left his lips swollen by the time she finally pulled away. Hubby, she begged, with tears streaming down her face. I swear I only love you. If I ever cheat, you can tell my parents to punish me to death. He was completely floored by her sudden, desperate outburst. So having money also gives someone the right to discipline their wife. Still, he couldn't trust a single word she was saying. Hearing that, Khloe slumped to the floor, completely broken. Her brain just short-circuited. Junior, who's that? She had no idea who he was. She swore he didn't even work there. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling just shared a knowing look. Mr. Sterling then calmly slid a heavy signet ring off his thumb, handing it to Kevin. He explained this ring commanded a shadow security team the Sterling Group had built. Secretly trained for decades, they were basically the family's imperial guard. And from now on, they answered only to Kevin. If he ever caught their daughter looking at another guy, he had full permission to deal with both of them however he wanted. Kevin realized, in the original plot, this very same shadow team was systematically wiped out. Wiped out by the Thorne Alliance, and now all that power was being handed directly to him. Khloe practically flew over, grabbed the ring, and personally slid it onto his finger. She let out a massive sigh of relief. Hubby, do you feel safe with me now? Mrs. Sterling patted his shoulder affectionately. We can help you keep an eye on her. But you need to be a domineering man, Kevin. Don't you ever go back to that pure love nonsense. At this, Sasha pumped her fist, cheering him on. Keep her pregnant until she's 50. Let's see if she has the energy to cheat then. Kevin was speechless. Khloe was absolutely speechless, but Mr. and Mrs. Sterling. They both just nodded in unison. Amen to that.